Which NFL division is the most talented going into the 2020 NFL season? In this video, I break down Team NFC South, the All-Stars from the NFC South, the Panthers, the Saints, the Falcons, and the Bucs. The best players at every position, including offense, defense, and the coaching staff. Before I give you the All-Star, All-Division team of the NFC South, make sure you do Gronk spike the like button, subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL videos just like this, and comment below your opinion on Team NFC South. Do you like my selections for every position? Let me know your team in the comment section below. The NFC South quarterback is basically a decision between two Hall of Famers. Do you want to go with Drew Brees or do you like Tom Brady? It's your choice which Hall of Famer you want to pick. For me, I'm taking Tom Brady. If this is an all-division tournament, if this is a playoff scenario, I'm taking the guy that's the most clutch in the biggest situations, and that has always and may forever be Tom Brady in terms of clutch quarterback play when it matters most. Brady is heading into a new situation in Tampa Bay with a lot more weapons, and I'm excited to see it go down. Brees is an awesome quarterback. Even a shout out to Matt Ryan, who's really good as well. But ultimately, I think Brady is the best going into 2020 and will be the quarterback and captain of Team NFC South. At the running back position, two players that really complement the quarterback, Tom Brady, with the way that they play, with their receiving skills. Christian McCaffrey, who last year was the best back in all of football from a statistical and performance perspective. McCaffrey is super quick and unreal as a receiver. And then you complement him with Alvin Kamara. This duo is the best receiving back duo you could possibly ask for, because I would argue that these are the two best receiving running backs in the NFL today. Alvin Kamara is so smooth and really doesn't look like he's moving very fast, but he's just so effortless the way that he carries and catches and basically does anything on a football field. At the wide receiver position, definitely the most stacked wide receiver trio of any NFC, AFC, or any division in the NFL, period. Julio Jones is the number one target for this NFC South. He is a complete all-around monster. Whether you want a receiver who can run fast, Julio can do that. Do you need a receiver that's really big and strong? Well, Julio's good at that too. Do you need a receiver that can jump really high? Well, sure, Julio can do that. You need a guy that can catch the ball over the middle? Sure, Julio can do that as well. And if you want to go deep, Julio, he's just going to run by you and catch the football. So Julio is arguably the best receiver in the game today. And if he is not the best receiver, I think a lot of people would argue that Michael Thomas is the best receiver in the NFL today. Michael Thomas is definitely, in my opinion, the best slot receiver in the NFL today, who would just really be awesome with Julio on the outside, opening up even more space for him to move and maneuver inside with his ability to run routes, short and intermediate. His strength is really the underrated aspect of the game. Body and overpower cornerbacks and get inside body position is really what makes Michael Thomas so special. The third receiver in the NFC South is none other than Mike Evans, perhaps the most physically imposing receiver in the NFL today because of his size and his height. Mike Evans has a huge catch radius. He's basically a tight end with wide receiver speed and quickness. That is a scary trio for the wide receivers in the NFC South that Tom Brady will be throwing to. And at the tight end position, Jared Cook. Now, is Cook one of the 5 best tight ends in the league? Probably not, but he is one of the 10. I wasn't going to put Gronk here until I see him back on the field. That's maybe getting ahead of myself here, but Jared Cook, he still physically has the tools. He can still run really fast. He's a big target. He's smooth. I think he's actually been underrated throughout his entire career. Dating back all the way to his Tennessee days, he was really good in Oakland. He was really good in Green Bay. He's basically been a solid, capable, top 10 tight end anywhere he's gone. And that's what he's been for New Orleans thus far. So we'll see him in 2020 as the number 2 or number 3 target in that New Orleans offense. Here is a complementary option in the NFC South. Now to the offensive line, starting off with the tackle duo straight out of New Orleans, Teron Armstead at left tackle, who a lot of people would say might be the best left tackle in the game, all around as a run blocker, pass blocker, do-it-all tackle. The only real issue or flaw in his game is that he's not always on the field. At right tackle, his teammate, Ryan Ramczyk, who maybe some would argue is the best right tackle in the league, and they play on the same team in the same offense, and now will be playing for the NFC South. Ramczyk has been an absolute stud and steal for the Saints since being drafted. The interior is not quite as pretty or nice as the tackle or weapons on the NFC South, but it's still pretty solid. Starting off at the left guard position, Ali Marpet of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Marpet is a really solid guard all around, mostly as a pass blocker. He ranks in the top 5 as a pass blocking guard in football and will be doing so for Tom Brady in Tampa. So maybe a spotlight will be on him that he's never had before to put him in rightfully that conversation where he belongs. At the right guard position, the weakest of all linemen on this team, and that's Andrus Pete. Now, Pete is really good as a run blocker. I think that's an area where he does not get enough shine or enough credit because he is the guy that the Saints love to run behind in big situations. That's why he's on this team. Pete, though, is not the greatest pass blocker. At the center position, this was a debate between Alex Mack of the Atlanta Falcons and Ryan Jensen of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And personally, I believe that Jensen just is a little bit better than Mack, but it's really close, and you could argue either way. I think Mack has obviously had the better career and has been better for longer, but he is getting up there in age and has declined a little bit from his prime. While Jensen, I would argue, is only getting better, and he was awesome last year, maybe a little bit better than Alex Mack. He is a really good run blocker. He is a really good pass blocker. He's one of the top 5 centers in the game. The NFC South defense is not one that will get a ton of fanfare. It's not made up of a lot of all-stars, a lot of really popular players, but just a lot of really undervalued, awesome football players, starting off with the guy that exemplifies the entire defense of the NFC South, and that is Grady Jarrett of the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, talk about an interior defensive lineman that does not get enough credit for how good and how disruptive he is. That is Grady Jarrett. Beside him is going to be a totally different type of defensive lineman, Vita Vea. While Grady Jarrett is more of a quick interior pass rushing type for Atlanta, Vita Vea is basically a big, huge man that, yes, very underrated as an athlete for how big he is, but he's basically clogging up space and defending the run. There is a reason that the Bucs were the number 1 run defense last year, and it started with V and ended with V. So Vita Vea. Not only do I love the interior duo of the NFC South for the meshing of styles, but I also love the edge position for the NFC South because of the same reason, the meshing of 2 different styles. Cameron Jordan is a power rusher who is super consistent. He's probably the leader of the NFC South defense. And on the opposite side, you have Shaq Barrett, who's more of a finesse rusher, more of a do-it-all edge player where he can drop back in coverage, he can defend the run, but he's more of like a get the quarterback and cover. And while Cameron Jordan is a guy that you can kind of line up outside, inside, anywhere on the defensive line, and he's going to get after the quarterback and defend the run at a very high level. Just like the defensive line, just like the edge position, the linebacker position is also one made up of 2 partners that complement each other pretty much perfectly. Lavonte David has been one of the best cover linebackers in the game for a very long time. He's super rangy, he's fast, he's athletic. Beside him is Demario Davis. Demario Davis, his weakness is probably in coverage, but he is unreal as a blitzer and as a run defender. So when you couple the 2 together, when you put the 2 together on the same team, you have 2 linebackers are basically a match made in heaven for this defense. in the secondary is where the NFC South does lack. It's not as good as that front seven, where that front seven is powerful, do-it-all defenders. The secondary is made up of a lot of unproven players. The number one corner in the NFC South is definitely Lattimore of the Saints. He's a number one shutdown corner. Is he a top 10 guy? I think that's debatable, but he's certainly, when asked, very capable of shutting down the best receivers in the league. At the number 2 spot is where it gets interesting. Carlton Davis, I think, is the guy that is going to be the standout number 1 corner for the Bucs for years to come. He plays a lot like Lattimore. He's very physical. He's great in press coverage. He's ideal in a man coverage scheme, and that complements Lattimore very well. So they could play a lot of press man coverage in this NFC South. And then at the nickel position, you could argue with 2 players on the Bucs. You could go with Dean, or you could go with Sean Murphy-Bunting. Both are capable. Now, Dean, I would say, is the better player, but he typically plays out wide on the opposite side of Davis. Murphy-Bunting is more of the nickel corner who plays more snaps in the nickel. But I just, because this is an exercise, went with the better player, and that is Jamel Dean, in my opinion. Very athletic, fast, and again, man cover corner that fits this defense. The safety position, Marcus Williams is one of the best free safeties that nobody really talks about from New Orleans. Very smart, very good in zone, and he'll be that free roaming free safety that will be perfect in this man cover system. And then at strong safety, I went with Keanu Neil. I think Keanu Neil is basically like the modern Cam Chancellor. He might not be as athletically gifted as Cam Chancellor, but he's every bit the playmaker. He hits really hard. He forces a lot of fumbles. The only thing with Keanu Neil is he just hasn't been able to stay on the field, but he's an excellent in-box safety, one of the best in the NFL today. The coaching for the NFC South might be the strongest in any division. When you go down the list of names on every single coaching staff, it's just great coach after great coach after great coach. So it was really difficult to determine who's the DC, who's the OC, who's the head coach. So I went with the guy that I feel is the best in terms of PR, the best personality, the guy that is the player's coach. So I went with Bruce Arians as the head coach because I feel like he would, in this all-star type setting, be the best type of coach for that setting and that type of team. He can relate to a lot of different players, and I think that's why I chose Bruce Arians as the head coach. Now, as the offensive coordinator, there's no doubt about it that Sean Payton has been one of the best offensive coaches in NFL history, period, end of story. Sean Payton's offense is right now maybe the best in the league, toe-to-toe with Kyle Shanahan. He's an excellent offensive mind. I do feel like sometimes as a head coach, though, reason why I didn't choose him as a head coach, he does get a little too bold sometimes. He does get a little over the top. He does get a little cocky sometimes. So that's why I went with Bruce Arians, for Sean Payton to maybe be held back a little bit. And then at the defensive coordinating position, I went with Todd Bowles, who's also been a head coach in his career. The DC of the Bucs made major improvements to that defense last year, and for my money is the best defensive mind in this division. Did not go with the rookie Matt Rule. He'll have to prove himself before I put him on this great coaching staff. The special teams, the kicker is Lutz of the Saints. Lutz is very consistent, although had a little bit of a rough spot last season. He's been really good for the most part throughout his career and made a lot of big kicks for the Saints, so I'm going to side with him. At the punting spot, I'm also going with another Saint, and that is Thomas Morstead. Morstead has been one of the veteran punters that's been very consistent year after year as one of the best in the league. And as the returner, another Saint. The Saints have a really good special teams unit, which is why they're very consistent and good team and win a lot of games. Deontay Harris is probably the returner that not enough people talk about. This guy's amazing. I'd argue he might be the best returner in the league. And that's even including Tyreek Hill. Every return this guy gets the hands on the football, he makes a play. He makes a guy miss. He makes yards that really shouldn't be there. And that's really the tell of a truly special returner. So Harris is the returner, and that is Team NFC South. That might be the best team of any team on paper. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. Does the secondary maybe hold them back from being the best, or is that offense just too much for anybody else to overcome? Let me know in the comment section below. It's Mitch of TheBottomLineView. Thanks for watching. Peace.